Hi, everyone. It's great to be with you all today. Happy Friday. My name is Matthew Maycock with the International Well Building Institute, joined by my colleague, Janera Sorrell, who is the real estate lead at IWBI. And together we're going to share a little bit about well and how it can apply in a real estate setting through commercial and residential buildings. So without further ado, we'll just begin and go into introductions. You want to hit the next slide? In this slide, yeah, perfect. So my name is, as I mentioned, my name is Matthew, a junior account manager here at IWBI, based in New York City, where our headquarters is. And, I spent a lot of time with companies of all shapes and sizes on educating their employees about, well, how they can start their sustainability journeys or improve on an already robust one. And I also support our larger global clients, such as our Fortune 500s. And then I support Janera with a lot of her real estate clients and accounts that are looking to, implement healthy building strategies into their portfolios. And so I've been involved with a lot of different things as well, as far as our event coming up in May, our Well conference, and other events locally in the US. And and our Well for Residential pilot program now, which we'll be talking to you a little bit later. Janera, do you want to just introduce yourself briefly? Janera, are you there? Yeah, Janera's on mute.
Oh, sorry. I thought I was talking. You couldn't hear me?
No.
No. Oh, I'm so sorry. It says that I'm in the show. So anyway, so yes, I was saying my name's Janera Sorrell. I am responsible for the real estate clients. That includes multifamily and office, industrial, and some retail, although retail is mostly managed out of Canada. And so I'm responsible for Latin America as well. So I just came back from Mexico, hence I'm off camera. I came back like in the middle of the night last night. And I'm very happy to be here. Thank you for the opportunity, Aaron. This is really great. And we are here to help you understand the value of well for your clients. And if you have any questions, please feel free to interrupt us as we go along. Thanks.
Thanks, Janera. You can hit the next slide. Great. So what we're going to try to do here quickly is give you a high-level overview of a lot in hopefully about 40 minutes, because a lot has changed in the world of well, and keeping up with it, it can be a lot. So we want to make sure you're fully up to speed on all that well can offer, besides from just beyond the certification story. So we're going to start by setting the stage and giving you a refresher of who International Well Building Institute is, the growth that we've seen, some new research and announcements and alignments that we've published recently. And then we can go into what well is, the program, how it works, how you can really demonstrate the value of well to your clients. And then we'd like to share a few real estate case studies of certain companies that are engaged with us. So, it's good just to know who is doing what in the marketplace. And then we'll dive into our new Well for Residential pilot program, which we launched officially in January, but we've been in development for that for the past 2 years. So we'll share some more about that, and then we'll open it up for any Q&A and any comments. Great. So you can skip to the next one. Great. So hopefully everyone knows that at the International Well Building Institute, we truly are the largest authority for transforming health and well-being in buildings, organizations, and communities. We have about 100 employees around the world, and we work with all different types of industries and asset classes on putting people in their company cultures, people first. And we were founded in 2014 via our parent company, Delos. And so, we're now, operating in many different regions, working with asset owners, developers, landlords, tenants. So, really the full spectrum. You can go to the next one. Great. So here at IWBI, we've been seeing this global surge for a while now. We have about 2,500 companies working with us, including 150, organizations that are part of the Fortune 500 and Global 500. We now have over 5 billion square feet of well space globally, which you just launched a press release about this earlier this month or in February. And what was great is that 2/3 of the world is now adopting our strategies in 130 countries and counting. So to put that into perspective, before the pandemic, we were at 600 million square feet and 60 countries. So we've grown so much in quite a few years. And just to explain a little bit about that growth, at the beginning of 2021, early 2020, as you can see where we're starting to spike is when we launched the health safety rating, which we'll talk about. And that's for facilities management operations. And that accounts for over 3 billion square feet of that 5 billion. So that was, really adopted, especially by our real estate developers and asset owners. It's a very popular solution for them. And then we started to grow more in the end of 2023, or beginning of 2023, late 2022, where we are really helping our clients robust their ESG reporting and strategy, where we have tools to do so for them. So how do we quantify social impact? And that's what we're helping with. Great. So here's just a few companies just several companies that we're working with in the real estate industry. So as you can see, we're working with a wide variety of asset owners, large and small real estate portfolios in various parts of the world. So we really are starting to see this growth amongst the real estate community, and it's it seems like word is getting around, and no one wants to be left out. So it's a lot here, and we have some of our major ones that have been working with us, like JLL, CBRE, that have been really the champions for many years now. So as far as, how does this apply to, rental values, and how are we thinking about, okay, if you apply healthy building strategies, how does that affect transactions and how does that affect rents? So at IWBI, we've been doing a lot of research over the past, really since we're founded, but more recently, we've been doing this research that is actually showing how when you implement healthy building strategies, transaction premiums go up by over 10%. Rent premiums can also go up, and then also leasing terms, people want to stay longer and they'll pay more in a lot of cases. So we have a bundle of all of this research that we're happy to share afterwards for anyone that would like to take a deeper dive. And so, WELL is also a really great driver for tenant satisfaction. We're definitely seeing a lot of demand from tenants that want to be in spaces that are different from just the rest, that are going to focus on people. So we're seeing a lot of these healthy building strategies improve occupant satisfaction, their well-being scores. A lot of times they'll also be more productive too. So there's a lot of different ways that we can, showcase, how, being in a well space versus a non-well space really enhances how everyone's feeling and performing. Next, please. Great. So as far as investing for health and real estate, really what's the reason for doing so? And here's why it matters. And as you've heard me mention, leasing rates and leasing terms will increase. So, a lot of times you can get an additional year or two, out of, lease terms. When you have higher rents, of course, that's going to be really important as far as the ROI, how you're going to, make further revenue. Asset building value, if you're working with a developer or a tenant, and their space is well certified or has well strategies already implemented, that building or that space, that will enhance that asset by up to 7%. So this is really great here to just kind of keep in mind. Of course, occupant health and wellness is increasing the demand for that. So, that's that's going to be a constant. And then we also aligning, and we can talk about this in a little bit later, but with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, we're really integrated, and we have a whole alignment tool that we can, go deeper into. But we really align with 16 out of the 17 goals, and we specifically number 3, good health and well-being. So this is important for any tenants that are looking towards reporting to the SDGs. So as far as healthy building attributes and how that kind of relates to performance indicators, so we've taken and we've done a lot of research, and we've taken different types of asset characteristics and kind of how they're implementing healthy building strategies, where their location is, how much are they in terms of their ventilation, if they have certifications, and we actually have data and citations on how rent and lease terms can go up depending on which types of indicators that any tenant or property manager will implement. So it's good to just kind of keep this in mind as you're sort of exploring more about well. So as I mentioned, this is really investing for health. It does pay back, and you've heard me say this already, but we have a collection of 60 independent studies that say, why it makes sense to implement these well strategies in any space. So employee performance goes up. The price per square foot also does go up as well, and the rents, of course, will just continue with that trend. So one of the things we've been doing as a company over the past few years is we've been involved with this whole people and planet conversation. So everyone has been talking about climate change. How do we reduce carbon emissions? How do we go net zero? But in order to do that to the best of our ability, we really do need those happy, healthy, and engaged people to put those things into motion. So a lot of companies thinking that they may need to just focus on planet-based solutions, looking at LEED, looking at green targets. But the companies that are the differentiators, they focus on not one but both people and planet. So this is kind of what we're doing. And if you go to the next slide, we've actually partnered. We've had a stronger relationship now with U.S. Green Building Council. And we actually have a streamlined certification process with them. We have a whole guide and a whole dedicated web page on our site. But if a company, if one of the clients is pursuing both LEED and WELL, they can now do so with that streamlined process. So if you go to the next slide, you can actually see what some of the types of benefits that you can get with the streamlined process. You'll have technical alignments. You'll be able to implement WELL and LEED more quickly and efficiently. You'll be able to coordinate your documentation review. So you'll be able to kind of talk to LEED. If you're working on a LEED WELL project, you'll be able to kind of, basically knock out 2 birds with 1 stone. You'll be able to submit documentation simultaneously, and so that you may not have any double work being done. And then it's all about really taking that integrative approach. And this is where you can come in as advisors, as real estate brokers and agents, whether that be, commercial or residential, and talk about how do we educate the clients to embed that people and planet approach. And so as far as, different types of alignment tools that we have for that people and planet strategy. So what's great is that if you do have a tenant that's pursuing LEED or a developer, what's great about that is that we have different crosswalks on our website that actually show exactly which features can contribute to which LEED credits or different types of sustainability certification credits can contribute to WELL. And we have ways to map that out so that you don't have to necessarily, recreate the wheel and, do any work that already may be done. So this is great, and happy to send this to you as well. This is all publicly available. So as far as ESG, so the other world of alignments in terms of what's driving that is the reporting goals and metrics is what we've been really seeing as huge in the marketplace. And just to kind of give a quick refresher, as far as ESG goes, it stands for environmental, social, and governance. And it's really a collection of the non-financial performance indicators of really what a company is doing to, attract their, employees and investors, and, really to show what they're doing that's sustainable around the environment, their people, and then how they're operating and running. So we do align with, a few sustainability benchmarks and frameworks. So most notably is the UN Sustainable Development Goals. And we're 80% aligned. So that means that, most well features are actually tagged to support one or more SDGs. So if you look on our website, which is publicly available on our well standard, our digital standard, you can actually see that, specific features that are tagged. And it's a great way to just start, reporting to the Sustainable Development Goals or robust that by using the well system, because you can really help. And we usually, help synthesize this into, a report, at the end of every year for our Well at Scale subscribers on how they're doing. So we can talk more about that. The other world of alignments is with the GRESB, benchmark. So, this is really great. We're almost 40% aligned with GRESB. And we have other, details about that. We have a stronger relationship now with them. And how are we going to create more social impact performance indicators there. So happy to talk more about that. We have IRIS, GRI, and then S&P CSA as well. So just to give you a sense of the SDGs that we help with, especially some of the ones that we're really, that we can help the most is goal number 3 and goal number 5. So good health and well-being and gender equality. And so we're really all about, how are we optimizing air and water quality to, really enhance, those people in the places that you're, putting the well strategies in. Circadian rhythms is really important there. So it's really kind of looking at it holistically and, implementing. And then you can report out on the fact, hey, you're reporting to the SDGs. That's great. And gender equality is huge too. So I mentioned that we have a new partnership with GRESB. And so in December of last year, we announced this partnership to really accelerate social sustainability by elevating reporting and disclosure capacities related to social indicators such as health, well-being, and equity. So we're really this partnership is really aiming to help investors, fund managers, companies, in advancing social sustainability. And a couple of the different ways is that we're helping to, co-produce a social sustainability dashboard with different performance measures on the GRESB website. We're looking to kind of pioneer different resources to aid investors and companies to really embed those social performance indicators. And then we're also looking at supplying other materials and really convening those key stakeholders to delve into those best practices. So really, lots of new and exciting work we're doing with them. So as part of, the other alignments with GRESB that we're seeing is that, and I mentioned this, we're aligned with just about 40% of the GRESB real estate assessment indicators. And so we're out of the 3 buckets, management, performance, and development, we say how much we're aligned, the percentage of alignment, and then we're also showing, how many points are well programs attributed towards GRESB points. So, we have, our certification, which is worth a full point. That's kind of our highest tier of achievement, which I'll talk about in a little bit. And then we have our smaller bite-sized chunks of the full standard, the health, safety, and the equity, which are worth partial points. So, lots of alignments, and we're really excited to continue this journey with them. So the other alignment that we wanted to talk about is the sustainable finance and looking at implementing sustainable, healthy building strategies to really access more capital, to get lower interest rates, on loans. And so there's a lot of different examples now of companies having certain KPIs and certain goals to really get those lower interest rates and those other achievements that they may want. And we're seeing well as part of those goals. So if you go to the next slide, you can kind of see a little bit more about how the sustainability linked loan principles really kind of and how we can really map well strategies and features to achieve those, whether it's employee burnout, diversity inclusion, or employee health and safety, and how do we bring people back into the office. So lots of different ways there. And then in the next slide, you'll be able to see some of the examples. We have about 70 examples of companies implementing well into their sustainable finance reports. So, the list in Asia is a lot longer because that's where it really started, and it's slowly been trickling down to the rest of the world. So in Europe and in the US, and then in Africa, of course. So, lots of different ways that companies are getting more access to capital and benefiting through well. So just a quick example of one of the ways that one of our clients is implementing their healthy building strategies to get more capital and borrowing capacity is Colliers. So they had a new credit facility in 2022 where they were looking at financing different projects that they may have, and their borrowing capacity increased by $500 million because they achieved a health safety rating across their entire part of their office portfolio. In their entire office portfolio. So that was one of 3 different targets that helped them get to that extra $500 million. And the other 2 were increasing, female representation and then reducing greenhouse gas emissions. So, this is a great way to just an example of, hey, this can really make a huge difference. So I just want to take a breather and pivot so that now we're going to look at, really what is well. I've been talking about, the research and the alignments that we're seeing, but now how does it actually work and how do you engage with us? So in the next slide, you'll see really how well is positioned and how we position it. And it's really looking at, you can really look at it as a framework. So it's really, and it's also a roadmap for supporting health and well-being for people and any organization, right? So in this slide, these are some of the common, these are some of the common challenges that companies are dealing with on a regular basis. So the companies of all shapes and sizes will come to us with goals and challenges, and we'll really take a look at this and we'll say, hey, we can map well features and strategies to any one of these challenges or problems, and really help them out in their ESG reporting as well. And just, it's good for business. So this is really a great slide to show how well can solve or improve upon any problem, because the standard can be very technical, and this is a great way to get any audience to understand how we can help. So one of the things that some of you may know, so as far as our well building standard, which has been out since 2014, we originally launched it as a version 1, which is 7 concepts, and now we're in 10 concepts, so we're a lot more holistic. But basically, the well standard, it's and this is based on everything we do, and it's a compilation of over 500 evidence-based and third-party verified strategies for how do we improve health and well-being in buildings and across organizations. So the strategies, they're backed by years of science and research and industry leaders. And then the strategies are arranged into 100 features across the 10 different concepts that you can see in the circles from mind to materials. And they have over 10 features in each. So they can focus on either how spaces are, the features can either focus on one of 3 things. So it's either how spaces are designed and constructed, looking at policy related, so looking at HR departments and how do we implement, better policies, and then, or just different policies for workplace health, and then operations and maintenance, looking at that as well. So well also does talk about and really align with sustainability. A lot of people look at us for, hey, we're mostly, a social sustainability solution, but no, that's not true. We do align about 20% with LEED because well was based off of LEED when we launched it. So these are some of the features here that will actually help towards improving upon, energy, the environmental targets and green targets. So we do have already features, and you do get innovation credits as well for already having LEED. So we do give credit for that. And we have a lot of different ways, looking at carbon disclosure and reduction. So we do have different ways that we can help impact environmental targets as well. So as I mentioned, WELL is really holistic, and we really look at our features are looked at into 3 different buckets, and 33% are looking at designs, policies, and operations. So it's a really great way to look at hey, if I have a client that might just want to implement policies or focus on policies and operations, not as much as design, you can certainly do that. And you can kind of select features that are more relevant to them based on what their goals are. But it's nice to know that you have different types of features that you can go for there. So as far as just kind of what our programs are and how do you engage with us. So there's going to be multiple ways to do so. So you can either implement our location-based achievements or our or applying WELL across an organization. So for the location-based options, we have our ratings or certification, which you probably are mostly familiar with, and I'll talk about this in a second. And then we have what's called our WELL at Scale subscription, which is where clients who want our all-inclusive option can really subscribe and then implement strategies across their entire portfolio or their legal entity. And this includes unlimited WELL achievements such as certifications and ratings, automatic membership, and then more support, technical support, amongst many other benefits. And this is the best tool for being able to benchmark and then tracking that increment, that achievement over time. And it's about quantifying social impact and how do we do that. So this is why you have the WELL score, which is a score from 0 to 100. And it's basically an average number of points that you've achieved across all of your subscribed locations. And this is great because if you can't improve upon social impact if you don't measure it, you don't track it. So that's a great way to just see about how you can improve every year. So as far as certification, so clients that really want to make the most comprehensive and holistic commitment with WELL, this is what they'll shoot for. That's WELL certification. And so with WELL certification, you're taking the full WELL standard and applying it to a specific location. So this is the most really robust, you'll have, preconditions or prerequisites as they're called in LEED. And then you have to apply them across the 10 different concepts, and then you earn points holistically through the various features. And then you can go with different tiers. So you can go through bronze, through platinum, and this is renewed every 3 years. This also does require performance verification. So that's really what sets apart WELL certified buildings from other buildings that may not have that certification mark. And we have certification for interiors in both the whole building and interiors. We have the core certification, which is in the next slide, which is really for our developers and asset owners that really want to just kind of do it for the common areas. And the base building. And then we have our community certification, which is really looking at communities, and it's a lot like LEED neighborhood development. So you can go into the ratings. So as far as the ratings go, we have 3 different types. So these are really bite-sized portions. There are subsets of features from the overall WELL standard. So as far as the 3 ratings, and just a little bit about the ratings, these are actually the best stepping stone into WELL, because they're going to be, in a lot of cases, more flexible and scalable than certification, and they can also be more cost effective. So some of the biggest differences are that there's going to be no preconditions. So a project can target any number of combination of features. They're going to be priced on a location basis versus by square footage, and then they're going to be based on an annual renewal versus every 3 years. And then finally, for the health, safety, and equity ratings, there's going to be no performance testing required. As far as the questions, the slides will be made available. Yes, we're happy to share this. And as far as, if you just want to go back really quickly to the rating slide. So just as far as the health safety rating, companies will typically start by piloting this at maybe one location or a subset. This is what a lot of our real estate clients have done already across their portfolios. And this is a really great way. This is technically really one of the easiest ways to start. You have to just achieve 15 out of 23 features And it can take as little as 2 to 3 months to achieve it across a portfolio. And this is looking at focusing on health and safety protocols, emergency preparedness, and managing air and water quality. The performance rating is about monitoring and measuring indoor environmental quality, and through the use of performance verification and sensors. So it's really about continuous monitoring over time. This is kind of more of our certification light version, offering. And then we have the equity rating, which we came out at the end of 2022, and that's looking at diversity and inclusion, design and policy strategies. So we're really looking at, how do we promote biophilia? How do we, are we having nursing rooms for, mother's rooms? Are we having inclusive gender neutral bathrooms? How are we designing the lighting environment for neurodiverse people? Things like that. So yeah, and as far as the next slide, this will show really how real estate developers, this is, just a this is just a sample of, some of the ones we work with and how they're implementing health safety rating and how much across their entire portfolio. So this is really a great way to get started, get familiar with the WELL system, and then you can always upgrade to certification at a later time if you want, or you can upgrade to WELL at Scale, which is really what we're seeing now in a lot of cases with different ones such as RXR and Rudin and and other ones, Empire ESRT. So there's a lot there. So health safety rating, as I mentioned, there's going to be 5 different action areas. So it'll focus on all these different action areas. Air and water quality management is a huge one. How are we doing the cleaning and sanitization procedures? Are we having signage? And how are we communicating that to stakeholders, and how are we engaging them? So in the next slide, you'll get the feature list. So these are 23 features that I mentioned as far as each of these bullets. And you just have to achieve 15 out of 23 to achieve the rating. It works as a pass-fail system. In the next slide, so this will give you a sense of the adoption of the health safety rating globally. So this is data as of August of last year, but out of our 5 billion square feet now, and this was done when we were at 4.5 billion most likely. So this has gone up since we've done this, but we've gotten many people to enroll their spaces in the health safety rating, and then we've gotten not only are they enrolling, they're also actually going through with the documentation and achieving it. So we have plenty of that as well. The performance rating, just to cover briefly, this will look at, it's, as I mentioned, it's a certification light option. So it'll look at a lot of those concepts from the standard, like air, water, light, sound, thermal comfort, and then how are we monitoring all of those things over time? And then how are we reporting that back to the occupants? How are they feeling in this space before and then after? So we really want to make sure that this is kind of, looking at data in real time. And then the equity rating, this is really looking at, this is a kind of our most design heavy rating. So we have a huge emphasis on inclusive design here. Community engagement is really huge. How are we offering health benefits and services? How are we, providing those supportive programs and, hiring practices? So in the next slide, you'll be able to see those. Did I not include it? Sorry about that. Well, you'll be able to, there's 43 features in that one. So we really are holistic, and we want to be able to have this apply as diversity looks different across other regions of the world. And you have to achieve 21 of those features to get the rating. So we have that. And then as far as WELL at Scale, so this is what I was talking about earlier. So this is our trophy pyramid that shows how does this all come together? How are all the ratings and the certifications? And so WELL at Scale, it's really a great way to give you access to all those things that you see here versus a single certification or rating. And so what's really great thing about WELL at Scale is that you can actually, if you have a client that's doing it, you don't have to, the goal isn't necessarily to certify every building or to get health safety rating for every building. You can actually pick out, and you can utilize the WELL standard as an a la carte menu where you can actually pick out certain features from the standard or certain concepts that the client may want to focus on. So if they're like, hey, we really want to look at mental health this year, we'll take a look at the mind concept. We'll implement certain features for certain locations where we really want to, robust that. So it's really a great way to, there's a lot of different goals that clients may have with Well at Scale, and then you'll get a lot of different ESG reporting tools to help them with those reports, or we'll get marketing involved to help with press releases, because that's an important thing. How do you communicate this to the marketplace? It's really important to use the Well system and the Well help to get that out there. And then you'll get your own technical account manager. So there's a lot of different things that we can help with, and automatic membership and so forth. So in the next slide, you'll be able to really start seeing how this all works. So in the first one, we'll help implement, we'll look at your goal, we'll look at the goals, and we'll say, hey, here are the strategies and the features and the concepts that'll match up with those goals. In the next slide, we talk about, just a couple of other different examples of how that works. And our technical account managers do a really great job of doing a whole onboarding call and sit down and really understanding where you're coming from, what your needs are, and how Well can get you there. So we'll also track the progress that you make, and this is all third-party reviewed. So that's the benefit of the Well system, where you can not only get feedback from our internal Well reviewers, but you'll also get feedback from the GBCI, which also does lead projects as well. So we work with the same company there to really help make sure that this is really as strong as it can be, and we'll help make track there. As far as earning achievements, so we'll help you celebrate those achievements, which is really important. We'll talk about how you can impact people and the amount of people that you've impacted across all your locations. So a lot of the times companies might want to go for a certification for their headquarters or their building with the most people, to talk about that, and then they'll do single features or ratings for the smaller locations that may not have the infrastructure to achieve. So that's kind of the way they look at it. And then as far as the next slide, we look at really how we help enhance ESG performance, and how do we help align there. So we have really great ESG reporting guides and tools that we can literally just share with you, and companies will usually copy and paste some of the language that we share into their own reports and their press releases. So this is great to just improve on those key metrics there. And as far as the Well summary report, so as a Well Scale subscriber, you get this Well report at the end of every 12 months, which shows the client all the milestones that they can achieve, that they achieved across individual buildings, their alignments with ESG, anything related to GRESB, ratings, certifications. So this is extremely helpful to compile this all into one succinct document, and it's great here. In the next slide, we talk about, so I mentioned the Well score. And this Well score, it's really an internal benchmarking score that companies have the decision whether or not they want to disclose that publicly. But if they decide to do so, we have this leaderboard on our website that shows where different companies are in specific industries, how they're performing as far as their social impact across their portfolios. So as you can see here, what's really great with the real estate organizations now is they're actually performing better than the average global Well score of a 33. So so real estate has a 38, and that doesn't necessarily sound like a lot when you're from 0 to 100, but just to kind of give you a sense of the way it works, if you're applying health safety rating across an entire portfolio, that will give you about minimum of 15, a Well score of 15 minimum, because you have 15 points across all your locations. And that's how you can improve upon it, is when you implement certification. So the real estate industry seems like it's really going above and beyond. So this is great news for the market. And now pricing. So when clients are making a decision, they can choose either to do so a la carte, they can do single certification or ratings, and then they can either decide to do Well at Scale. So on the left side, you can see how Well at Scale is priced. It's going to be looking at the client's portfolio size. The larger the portfolio size, the annual cost will increase. It will never get higher than $250,000. And this is the tier that some of our clients like Citibank and JP Morgan are under. since they can do as much as they want and they don't have to keep going back for budget approvals for every project that they're doing. So, this is great. So they're doing it for, they're doing it for 6,000 locations. So other clients, you can, if you have a client that's, under 50 locations, it'll be $30,000 a year, which is great. And then, if you're doing as far as ratings or certification, that's going to be on a sliding scale. So the more locations you enroll, the cost per location decreases. And so with certification, it's square footage based. So it'll never go higher than $100,000. So if you have a client that's saying, hey, I want to get a couple of buildings certified, or I want to get one building certified, that's $100,000 every 3 years. But if you do well at scale, if they have under 50 locations, that's $30,000 per year. So you can say, hey, that's actually saving me money, and I can just do more than one project. So this is a great way to just really tell clients, as far as advising them on a portfolio level, how well at scale really helps streamline costs and is more efficient. So going into the case studies really quickly. So I'm just going to breeze through these. So as far as just some of the ones that we've been seeing. So in the next slide, I wanted to mention Empire State Realty Trust, so ESRT. They are true well champion. They've been doing health safety rating since it launched at the end of 2020, early 2021. And then once they did that, they were actually the first commercial portfolio in the country to achieve health safety rating. They've renewed it multiple times, and then they decided at the beginning of last year to go into well at scale, because they're like, hey, we own the Empire State Building. It is health safety rated. We want to eventually get it well certified, and that's 3 million. That's a few million square feet. So if they did it with just single certification without the well at scale, that would have cost them $100,000. But now they're doing well at scale, so they can get that included for $30,000 a year. They want to certify the Empire State. So that's another really nice way of looking at how that can help. So they're doing 16 locations. They started out with their commercial portfolio, and they've also now added their residential locations, and they've integrated that into their ESG reports and so forth. So they've done a lot there. As far as Rudin goes, they are a more new well at scale client. They started out with the health safety rating. Like most of our real estate clients, they are now doing the well at scale. They put more locations. They have 30 total between their commercial and residential buildings. And now they're looking at, as part of that subscription, how are we going to implement the equity rating, as kind of looking at how are we going to improve upon the well journey. As far as RXR, they're another great example. They originally started with health safety rating across 27 locations, and then they enrolled into well at scale in the end of 2022 across 20 million square feet. So they've done that in their ESG report. They've talked about that. And then they've also, as part of that subscription, they're now looking at certifying, multiple buildings. So this is great news for them. As far as Veris Residential, so they are a developer out in New Jersey. So they have, a great portfolio of assets. They initially started with health safety rating for 22 locations. They've renewed it already. And then now they're subscribing to, they already subscribed to well at scale in 2022. And then they're the first, as part of that subscription, they're the first organization globally to achieve the equity rating across an entire portfolio. So this is great bragging rights for them. And they've included this in the well and ESG reports as well. So this is great news for them. Another example, Cadillac Fairview. They've been a longtime well client since, we were looking at well version 1. So all the way back in 2016, where they've done well core certification. They've done it for multiple buildings, and then they decided, hey, let's continue on our journey. Let's go for health safety rating. Let's go for more certifications. And this has been they've done, a lot of great work. They're already also a well at scale subscriber. They've won awards with us, and they're really trying to, just really improve upon everything they do with us as much as they can. JLL is another great example of another client that's been with us since really our beginning, and one of our true well champions. So they've done health safety rating for over 200 locations globally. They've done certification for multiple locations. They've also enrolled into Well at Scale for their US and APAC locations. And they're reported their Well score, which is great. And they were also known as the Well Enterprise Provider of the Year, which is actually one of 26 global organizations that are kind of really our top partners in terms of how are they providing Well consulting services to their clients and offering that as a solution. So they have to either be implementing that internally and or recommending it as a solution. So they really are helping us scale the business. And then they, of course, talked about this plenty in their ESG reports. So the Well Conference, I wanted to just talk about that really quickly. We're having this inaugural flagship event in Long Beach, California, from May 7th through 9th this year. It's really coming up on us very quickly. If anyone, would like to think about attending and to get more involved with the global Well community, this is a really great way to do so, as most of our staff will be there, and it'll be a great way to just really get more education, hear influential speakers, and so forth. So this is a great way to just further deepen your knowledge of Well. If you decide to come, feel free to contact me about that if needed. So I wanted to talk about the Well for Residential pilot program now. And this is really a great way and now a really great new program that we've just launched. And it's really looking at how do we set that new standard of living, and how do we really implement Well features, but in a more residential kind of nature. So if we want to go into the next couple of slides, to really kind of just talk about, the program. We can go to the next one. So as far as the Well for Residential, so it's an evidence-based, third-party verified framework for our architects, builders, developers, and operators to create those healthier, more resilient homes. And we're really looking at how do we, help capitalize on that consumer demand. As we set out to develop the program, we collected all this feedback on how the program should function. And we wanted developers to differentiate in that increasingly competitive market. Of course, as interest rates are where they are, we really need to say, how do we help differentiate those and, apply healthy strategies to those developments. We want to provide that third-party seal with the Well brand and that holistic framework to kind of really help guide this comprehensive program. And also the affordability was a huge thing for both fees from a technical perspective and how do we the accessibility of it. With certification, it is more complex, it is more robust. We wanted the residential component to be a little bit easier and not make it as complicated. So we want to have that balance between rigor and flexibility. So if you go to the next slide, the Well for Residential program was built for the residential market by the residential market, right? So we developed this program over nearly a 2-year process with over 100 residential experts and including 20 builders and developers. And the important thing here is that we really understood that residential is unique. The Well certification was originally designed a lot for, office spaces and commercial, but now we have needed something and we were due for something on the resi side. So it's unique when it's compared to commercial methods, which requires those special strategies. And then the program, what we want to make it sure that it's, we develop something that not only checks the boxes for a healthy home program, but also it's a program that works for the builders and developers. So a little bit about the program as far as, what it's looking like. So, really who it's for, as I mentioned, it can be for a wide variety of stakeholders that are looking to implement those healthy strategies into residential. It can be either single family or multifamily homes. And it's going to be over 100 impactful strategies. And it could be for new development and existing residences as well. So as far as the program now, we're in this pilot phase. So we're going to be in the pilot phase pretty much for the end of through the end of 2024. And early 2025, we'll get out of the pilot and we'll really graduate this to, have on our website. Because right now there's not much surrounding it that you can find. It's kind of really all manual. So we're really, by getting early into the game now, we're really, working with our prospects and our clients that they can help provide their feedback and help shape the evolution of the program. So we're still collecting all this feedback. We're really wanting to, enhance the brand visibility and leadership of some of our early adopters that have already gone into the program. So now we have about 30 early adopters. We launched a press release in January that talked about that. We have nearly 30,000 homes already enrolled. I can send this to you afterwards. But this is really great. And then how does WELL Residential differ from WELL Certification? So what's really great is it's kind of you could think of it as an easier option, more accessible. So there's no precondition. So there's going to be no required features there. So it kind of acts like a rating in that sense. There's going to be performance testing. There are performance testing features in the standard, but it's no requirement. So you can choose features that don't require that. There's also no tiers of achievement. So that means that there's no bronze through platinum. You just need to get a minimum of 40 points to achieve it, and then you're all set. You get the actual seal. It's also, the renewal is optional. So it can be a one-time achievement if the client decides that this is all they want to do. It'll have the year on it. So, in order to get an updated year, you'll just have to go through the renewal of that. And it focuses on the units themselves and not the building. So a lot of different differences there. So how do we define what a WELL residence is? What are the qualities of that? So we're looking at, a home that improves, quality of air, filtration, and ventilation. We're looking at, water, we don't want to have any stagnant water, so that can build up for Legionella. Materials is really important. We want to promote products that are low VOC, that prevent off-gassing, and also and so forth. We want something that's thermal, that has great thermal comfort. It's really all about the occupant. How are we designing systems and HVAC systems to promote, and daylighting strategies to promote proper airflow, and just circadian rhythms. Sound is really huge. How do we want to develop our products to kind of, prevent distractions? How are we making them quieter? How do we separate, noisy spaces, common areas, living rooms, and what are the materials that we're doing to minimize that noise? Nourishment is a huge one. How are we giving our residents access to healthy food and food production, adequate kitchens that can support that? Are we having, gardens and so forth? Community is huge, lighting, mind is, kind of having a building, having apartments look at blue spaces and green spaces. This is huge. And movement, how are we promoting movement? Do we have stairs in the space? Do we have gym access? Do we have bike racks nearby? So this is a lot of great, things here that we're helping to implement for WELL residences. So in the next slide, and I promise I'm almost done. So these are just a quick sampling of the features that are in the WELL Residential standard. So the features in bold are the features that are new just for WELL Residential. So there we do have a whole program PDF that I'm happy to share. It's password protected, but this will actually go into the requirements of each feature. So we have new things like EV charging, looking at food and hygiene. And then in the next slide, we'll have other things like, quiet products, and how do we have HVAC systems in the next slide as well, and fire mitigation, and so forth. So there's a lot of different ways that we can just kind of have those new features in there. And then in the next slide, you'll see this is kind of just an initial design concept of how the WELL seal will look like. Of course, it's going to say residence underneath. It's similar to certification, it looks like, but our design team's still working on that, and we're really deciding on what the final look will be. So we'll know more information about that in the coming weeks and months. So it'll be great to have that finalized. So that's great. And then as far as pricing goes, if you want to go into the next slide, we have two different tiers. So we have our low volume and high volume. And so this program was designed for volume developers. So we have a minimum spend of $12,500 US. So that's $100 a unit. And that includes up to 125 units. And you can have, and if you have a developer that has more, up to 1,000, it goes into $50 a unit. But there is that minimum $50,000 spend there. Yeah, it's a very simple, review process. As far as the documentation, you get a whole technical coach with that, and so forth. So that's great. Yeah. And then the next slide, I believe that's all I have for you. So I know I covered so much in a short amount of time. So if anyone has any questions in the chat, more than happy to, look at those. If you want to just share anything, if Janera, you wanted to add anything, so just let me know. And thanks for being with me here today.
Yeah, I just thank you so much, Matthew. That was indeed a lot of material. Thanks for covering that. So basically what I think the main takeaways is that WELL is a holistic system to address health and human health and well-being, meaning social sustainability in companies and in spaces. We have different solutions. The more difficult one would be a full certification, and the entry level is the health safety rating. So for developers that are thinking of starting, the health safety rating would be the best place to start. It's a facilities management and operations rating. And then if there's any multifamily developers that you're working with and they are looking to differentiate themselves from the market, from the other condo developers and or multifamily, then WELL for residential, the pilot that we've just launched, could be an option as well. So there was a lot of information. It can be unpacked in more detail. So if you have any questions, please reach out to Aaron and he'll get back to us. We wish you a very, very good weekend. Thank you for your attention.